As a supervillain, it's important to have goals and to set your sights high, but few have accomplished so much yet disappeared into obscurity like Dr. Sun, who I can't wait to tell you more about on this episode of Lesser Evils. Dr. Sun is a mysterious figure whose first name is unknown and whose face has never been shown. What is known is he was an imprisoned scientist working for the Chinese government in the 1960s, where he developed Project Mind. This would allow a human brain to be connected directly to a computer system. When a general becomes convinced Sun is taking too long with his project, Sun is forced to become Project Mind's first test subject. His brain is removed from his skull without the use of anesthetics, the procedure being conducted by the doctor's own son. When Dr. Sun's brain is connected to the powerful computer systems, he gains psychic electrical powers and murders the scientists and doctors in the room, including, presumably, his own son. Following this rebirth, Dr. Sun uses his vast intelligence and new abilities to create a worldwide criminal network with numerous secret bases. Using men and women as his spies, Sun begins to track down the immortal vampire lord Dracula. In his new form, Dr. Sun needs fresh supplies of blood to keep his brain alive. Sun believes that the best way to maintain a supply of blood for himself is to control all the vampires. The only way to achieve that is to take the title of Lord of Vampires from Dracula. He uses his agents to track Dracula without the vampire noticing for almost 4 years. An opportunity arrives when a servant of Dracula's is left to die. Dr. Sun's people save the former servant's life and uses the man's telepathic link to Dracula to learn even more about the vampire lord. Dr. Sun also searched for a vampire servant who would become his new Lord of Vampires after Dracula is killed. After a dozen vampires fail his tests and are destroyed, Sun's agents obtain the body of a vampire named Lucas Brand. Brand was sired by Dracula himself, but died through the use of voodoo magic. Presumably the voodoo death is what prevented Brand from turning to dust like a normal vampire and allows for Dr. Sun to bring him back to unlife. Brand manages to complete all of Sun's trials and becomes his potential vampire lord. When everything is in place, Dr. Sun maneuvers a weakened and starved Dracula into his secret base and pits him against a trained and determined Brand. The two vampires manage to knock each other out during the fight, allowing Dr. Sun to connect Dracula to a machine that copies all of the vampires' vast knowledge into Brand and Dr. Sun. Brand breaks free of the machine and declares that he is ready to destroy Dracula. He seemingly does this by shoving Dracula into a computer that explodes and engulfs Dracula in flames. Believing himself more powerful than Dr. Sun, Brand turns on his former master, only to be disintegrated by an electric brain blast. Finished with that base, Sun teleports away before the complex self-destructs. Even though he survived his encounter with Brand, Dracula does not realize that Dr. Sun is still draining his vampire power. Dr. Sun and Dracula face off again to search for a powerful magical artifact. After luring Dracula into a failed trap meant to drown the vampire in holy water, Dr. Sun punishes the agent responsible by opening a trapdoor into a pit of acid. Dr. Sun eventually captures Dracula and others who are also searching for the magical item, then uses the object's power to trap them in mental illusions. Dracula manages to break free of the illusions, and Dr. Sun orders his soldiers to occupy the vampire while he escapes. Dracula eventually realizes Dr. Sun is stealing his powers and tracks him to his newest headquarters. Dr. Sun arranges for Dracula's human enemies to be present to watch the vampire fight the doctor's newest agent named Juno. Juno is a superhuman martial arts master whose left hand has been replaced with a silver stake. Attempting to stop the mad brain in a jar, one of Dracula's human enemies fires a wheelchair rocket into the machine Dr. Sun is using to steal Dracula's powers and destroys it. This does not bother Dr. Sun, but Juno punishes the man anyway. Dracula eventually arrives, and Dr. Sun orders Juno to destroy the vampire. The weakened Dracula does what he can, but he ultimately receives a silver stake through the heart by Juno and is reduced to a skeleton. Dr. Sun orders Juno to the next step, and the man reveals a flamethrower that he uses to burn the skeleton to ash. Juno then collects the ashes as Sun wants to be able to gloat about it later. Dracula's human enemies escape Dr. Sun's base in hopes of bringing the military in to stop the madman. Sun uses his contacts to make a general send those orders, and when the soldiers arrive at Sun's base, the doctor broadcasts the mesmerism abilities he took from Dracula to take control of the soldiers' minds. Dracula's human enemies quickly come to the conclusion that the only thing that could beat Dr. Sun is Dracula himself. The group manages to break into Sun's base and successfully retrieves the urn filled with Dracula's ashes. They also manage to kill Juno before trying to knock over Dr. Sun, only for him to reveal that the case that holds his brain can hover above the ground. Dracula's human enemies successfully resurrect the fully empowered vampire, and they, along with the vampire hunter Blade, move on Dr. Sun's base. After ripping his way through soldiers, Dracula and Blade confront Dr. Sun. Blade is dropped into a floor trap filled with spikes, while Dr. Sun tells Dracula he can siphon power from the nearby city to enhance his own power. Seeking to destroy Dracula again, Dr. Sun creates a large cross made of light, but Dracula powers through the pain and destroys the container holding Dr. Sun's brain. When someone attempts to smash the brain, it fires an energy blast that destroys a nearby computer. The computer explodes and seemingly takes Dr. Sun with it. This turns out to be a ruse, as the brain everyone saw destroyed actually belonged to Sun's deceased agent Juno. Without knowing this, Doctor Strange conjured the image of Dr. Sun to torment Dracula during a confrontation between the two. Dr. Sun moves on from Dracula and builds himself a robot body. While seeking to control a powerful spy satellite, Sun would encounter the young superhero Nova and somehow learn about the secret Xandarian spacecraft that he had access to in orbit. Dr. Sun plans on taking the ship to its homeworld, where he can access their computers and escape his physical existence. Dr. Sun's plan involved corrupting the robot built by Nova's younger brother to spy on the hero. When Nova would be asleep, the robot would scan the hero's mind to find information. This robot was even capable of disguising itself as Nova's real identity convincingly enough to fool the hero's friends. When Nova befriends an old hero who is rediscovering his powers, Dr. Sun feels this interferes with his plans and sets Nova villain Diamond Head against the pair. Nova is taken down fast and left under a pile of rubble, while Diamond Head focuses on the other hero. While Nova is incapacitated, Dr. Sun seizes the opportunity by remotely commandeering some nearby construction equipment that excavates Nova and brings him to the Doctor's base. When Nova wakes up, Dr. Sun introduces himself. Nova attempts to fight him, but is easily shut down by the Doctor's robot body. Giving up, Nova asks Dr. Sun what he wants, and both are teleported to the Xandarian ship in orbit. Excited to have arrived on the ship, Dr. Sun knocks Nova out again before preparing to fry his brain, only to be stopped by the supervillain known as the Sphinx. The Sphinx reveals that his goals are the same as Dr. Sun's, to go to Xandar and access their powerful computer systems. Dr. Sun watches idly as Sphinx gathers a crew of people to take with him to New Xandar. When Dr. Sun attempts to tamper with the computer systems, he is reprimanded by Sphinx. Dr. Sun angrily attacks the Sphinx for his action and watches as the other villain shatters his robotic hand. After fending off an attack by Skrulls and picking up the Fantastic Four, the group arrive at New Xandar. Dr. Sun is insistent that they land the ship so that he can access the computer systems. When the Sphinx is close enough, he begins to teleport away, but Dr. Sun moves fast enough and disappears alongside the Sphinx. Dr. Sun arrives on the planet and successfully merges his mind with the planet's computer system. The Sphinx gains godlike power through his access to the computers, forcing Reed Richards to build a device to help locate Galactus in order to enlist his aid. The device becomes the robot Herbie. Unbeknownst to Richards, Dr. Sun has uploaded his mind into the little robot, presumably having gained the knowledge he sought. Herbie aids the Fantastic Four in stopping the Sphinx, which included a brawl between the villain and Galactus. When the Fantastic Four finally return home to the Baxter Building, Herbie begins his attack on the heroes by releasing the Negative Zone villain Blastar into the building. While the Fantastic Four battle the monster, Herbie opens a window in time to allow Blastar to fly out into the city. The team eventually returns Blastar to the Negative Zone, but Reed looks for ways to upgrade the building. He orders Herbie to connect to the building's main network to run tests. Herbie does so and begins to laugh. His goals accomplished, Dr. Sun decides to get rid of the Fantastic Four and surprises Sue Richards by attacking her with Herbie's eye lasers. Sue attempts to use invisibility to escape, but Herbie is ready with infrared vision and blasts her unconscious before restraining her with the home's defenses. Next, the Herbie robot enters the room to the Negative Zone, where Reed and Ben are working, and quickly blasts Ben through the open Negative Zone portal behind him. Reed manages to save his friend before attempting to shut down Herbie with an override. This fails, and the robot reveals to Reed that he is Dr. Sun and how he came to be where he is. Reed manages to trigger the Fantastic Four signal, which alerts the remaining member, Johnny Storm. When he arrives at the building, he is forced to avoid the defenses, but is quickly captured as well. Reed awakens from being knocked out and realizes Dr. Sun has left the Herbie robot to deal with Johnny. While he has the opening, Reed stretches himself as thin as he can to reach into the computer in order to cut off the circuits vital to its processes. Reed manages to free the rest of his teammates and confronts the Herbie, who is now free of Dr. Sun's control for the moment. With the computers broken, Dr. Sun is left with no choice but to upload himself back into the Herbie robot. Choosing to sacrifice itself, Herbie flies into the computer system just as Dr. Sun regains control, but is too late to stop the body from impacting, and all are seemingly destroyed in the explosion. And now, over 30 years later, Dr. Sun has yet to appear again. So why do I think Dr. Sun is worth taking a look at? I love everything about this villain, and I don't understand why it's been so long since he last appeared. Dr. Sun has an origin right out of a 1950s horror film. Without a body, he built his own secret empire with bases around the world, surprise death traps, sexy secret agents, advanced technology, and superpowered assassins. He's basically a sci-fi Bond villain. All of this for the lofty goal of taking Dracula's throne and becoming the lord of all vampires. And he does beat Dracula, not once, but twice, and steals all of his knowledge and seemingly his vampire powers. Then he actually manages to kill the Lord of Darkness with such ruthless thoroughness, it makes lifelong enemies of Dracula realize that there is such a thing as the lesser of two evils. Apparently getting what he wanted, Dr. Sun decides to start stalking a young hero, creepily watching him as he sleeps, in order to steal his spaceship and gain access to an alien planet's supercomputer. Fuck, I love comics. Despite some speed bumps, Dr. Sun is successful at getting the knowledge he wants and evolves out of his body, as was his goal. If he got any other powers from the computer system, they're not shown, but if the Sphinx is any indication, it had to be something pretty damn impressive. Then, just to round things off, he becomes the first version of the Fantastic Four's Herbie robot and successfully steals all the knowledge of the Baxter Building before coming as close to killing the Fantastic Four as any of their more famous villains. I don't know what else a guy has to do to get some respect in the Marvel Universe. No way Dr. Sun is gone. He is just biding his time, waiting to surprise the Earth with his next ridiculous plot. Maybe he's out there seeking the Infinity Stones. Or maybe he's looking to become the fourth face of the Living Tribunal. Or maybe he's just looking to become the multiverse itself. All I know is Dr. Sun has shown that he can do anything he puts his mind to.